SITREP World Briefing for July 28, 2026. Seattle police said a shooting at a food festival in Seattle over the weekend killed 3 people and wounded 4 others, as investigators worked to determine how 3 suspected shooters were involved in the attack. Police said one of the dead was believed to be one of the gunmen, and the injured included a 2-year-old boy. The violence erupted at a crowded public event, turning a community gathering into a major crime scene and forcing detectives to piece together witness accounts, video, and court records as they tracked the suspects. Investigators said the number of suspected shooters had risen to 3, with 1 suspect in custody, a second being sought, and a third thought to have died at the scene. Seattle police also said the shooting may have been gang-related, a line of inquiry that could shape charging decisions and the scope of the investigation in the days ahead. The investigation is likely to focus on who opened fire first, whether the suspects knew one another, and how weapons were brought into a densely attended event. The United States delegation walked out of a United Nations Security Council meeting in New York on Monday while France was speaking. The confrontation followed a contentious vote in which Washington sided with Russia and North Korea against extending the term of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, and France used its remarks to condemn that decision inside the chamber. For France, a permanent Security Council member and one of Washington's closest NATO partners, the episode carried unusual diplomatic weight because disagreements that are often managed behind closed doors instead played out in full view at the UN's headquarters in New York, raising questions about Western coordination on both human rights policy and support for Kyiv. President Emmanuel Macron convened ministers and mobilized the French government as major wildfires burned across southwest France, with 1 blaze reported contained while a larger fire near Bordeaux continued to spread. The fires displaced large numbers of residents, and the government response accelerated before a new heat wave expected across Western Europe, a combination that raised the risk of fresh flare-ups and further strain on firefighters already deployed in the region. Macron's intervention indicated that the LSE viewed the fires as a national emergency because southwest France includes heavily forested areas, transport links, and communities that can be rapidly threatened when high temperatures and wind combine. The area near Bordeaux has repeatedly faced severe summer fires in recent years, and the latest response again put climate pressure, civil protection capacity, and evacuation planning at the center of French domestic governance, as ministers coordinated efforts to contain active fronts before hotter conditions arrived. President Donald Trump was preparing to receive Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House in Washington on Tuesday, for their first meeting since the late February U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran strained ties. The talks were framed as high stakes because they come after the Iran war altered the regional balance, and as Washington tries to manage multiple diplomatic tracks at once, including Middle East security and efforts to shape broader ceasefire or de-escalation arrangements. For Netanyahu, the White House meeting offered a chance to stabilize relations with Trump after the joint military action against Iran exposed new friction within a close strategic partnership. For Trump, hosting Netanyahu in Washington also highlighted the administration's effort to balance alliance management, deterrence against Iran, and the political demands of a conflict that has already pulled the United States more deeply into the region than many observers expected earlier this year. The Monetary Authority of Singapore, the city-state's central bank and integrated financial regulator, said on Tuesday that it earned net profit of about $14.8 billion, $20 billion, for its latest financial year, with Managing Director Chia Der-jin attributing the result to strong investment gains. MAS said global financial conditions had remained broadly benign so far, but Chia warned that a major uncertainty was whether the current artificial intelligence investment boom could be sustained. At the same time, MAS moved to harden the financial sector against new technology threats, saying it had formed a task force to prepare defenses against risks tied to AI and quantum computing. The regulator said the threats ranged from more sophisticated scams and operational vulnerabilities to to the longer-term danger that quantum advances could undermine current encryption standards, and it added that a set of supervisory expectations for quantum resilience would be issued later in 2026. Sources and the full written briefing are available at sitrepbrief.com.